Hey everybody, welcome to the Coastal Noise Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. On this episode, we have Mayor of Ocean Springs, Shea Dobson, joining us for his second appearance on the show. We talked about a lot of great stuff in our hour and a half conversation, and I'm looking forward to getting into that. But before I do want to give a quick shout out to another local Ocean Springs resident, an artist and good friend of mine, Eddie Dixon, who recently released a really fantastic album that I've been listening to these past couple weeks, and just kind of wanted to share it, talk a little bit about it, and tell you guys what me and Eddie have down working in the pipes for the next coming weeks. If you would do me a favor, if you've got a pen, something to write on nearby, or you can type this into your phone, just write down Eddie Dixon's new album name. It's called Coinstar. It's one word, just like the magical machines that you put all your loose change in. You can listen to it on his Bandcamp, which is eddiedixon.bandcamp.com, or if you go to the show notes for this episode, you can click on his name and it will send you directly to his Bandcamp website. I've been doing this show for 5 years. I don't ask a lot from listeners, channel subscriptions or occasional feedback maybe. But if you're a true music fan or if you believe in supporting local artists, please go and check this guy's work out. Eddie's been self-producing his solo albums for years now, and Coinstar, in my opinion, is by far his best work. I love this album. Go listen to tracks like Best Trick by Far or Conversation with a Ghost. Listen to Why I Ain't Worried or the really beautifully moving self-titled track Coinstar. If this isn't good songwriting, I don't know what the hell is. There's something on it for everybody. I think it's upbeat, it's fun, it's weird, it's thought-provoking, and perhaps the most incredible part about it is that Eddie Dixon himself wrote, recorded, and produced this whole thing, this entire piece of work by himself, which blows my mind. Eddie has always put out music with strong detail to audio quality, but he's really outdone himself here. I mean, this album sounds like it was recorded in $1 million studio, and I'm working on a more in-depth review that I'll post for the album if you want to check that out in the next week or two. But if you'd really like to hear more about the album, I'd really like to encourage you to listen in on the next podcast. I'm talking with Eddie right now, and he's agreed to come on the show and play a few of the tunes from Coinstar and talk about the creation of the album. So be sure to subscribe to Coastal Noise on iTunes, YouTube, Google Play if you haven't already, and you'll get the episode as soon as it's published, along with access to all the other Coastal Noise podcasts that I put out for the free. So, and you can take those savings and maybe buy Eddie's album. If you can't, I get it. Money's tight sometimes, but I know it would mean a lot to Eddie if you just listened to some of his work and left him a review, dropped him a line, or provided him with some kind of feedback. But trust me, this is one of the best independent albums you're going to hear this year. It's worth every penny, and it deserves a spot in your music collection. Coinstar. Check it out. On this episode, we have Shea Dobson. We talk about the state flag on 2 separate occasions, Dobson's last 6 months in office, local news, controversies, social media and online debates, and then get into some more lighthearted topics like trending television shows, video games, and world travel. So I hope you enjoy it. Please feel free to leave feedback in the comments section on the Coastal Noise website, the Facebook page, the YouTube channel, or ever else you want to drop us a line. And please share the episode if you enjoyed the conversation. It helps the show grow and attracts bigger and better guests. Kick it off now. This is Coastal Noise Podcast, episode number 73 with Shea Dobson. All right, folks, welcome to the show. We've got Mayor Dobson here to chop it up and talk about things. Man,
Yes,
how's things been going the last 6 months for you?
It's been going well. It's we got a lot of good things I'm looking forward to. It's I think what's really cool is this. Now I'm starting to see some things that we had put in the pipeline at the beginning that's starting to come through, and it's really rewarding seeing some stuff you've been working on starting to pay dividends. But we're working on like, for instance, we're getting ready to hire a retail company to help out with economic development. We're moving forward on some important infrastructure projects and such. We're taking care of the beach. The beach is, as most people are aware, the tides are rising and all of that stuff. And, I don't want to get into why or who's responsible, but they are. So we have to address that. But yeah, just we got a lot of stuff going on, and it's just really cool. Really cool. It's really an honor. And really the funnest, and not even it is fun, but just one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had. Just being able to help people, every day.
I'm sure
stuff.
you haven't. It hasn't been without challenges though, too.
Oh yeah, yeah. We've had some challenges.
Yeah.
We've definitely had some challenges, but you know, what are you gonna do? It's you gotta. I guess you gotta take the good with the bad, right?
How do you navigate those setbacks?
You know, I'm a big believer in you are the company you keep, and that it's important to keep people that share your values and such around you. So I keep a close knit group of friends and family. Not even politicos, people who are into politics and stuff. Like I like keeping people around me who I can go to and say, look, this is the situation, or who can kind of give me advice, and not from a political perspective or anything like that, just from a basic average person perspective. And that's really what I do, is I kind of just go back and fall back to people I trust.
Mm-hmm.
So
what kind of issues and concerns does the general public approach you with most often?
The general public,
I know the hurricane cleanup thing was a big issue that you guys were trying to stay on top of.
Yeah. And we've done we've done we've moved forward with putting together some things to help for the next hurricane, that it won't be as bad. But yeah, last year it was just a crazy year. We got record-setting rain, and it was just a whole bunch of circumstances that all came together at one time. But that's not an excuse. It's we need to be able to get this. When there's a hurricane, we need to be able to clean up and get everything done. And I've put together some things I think will help that. So. Drainage. It's funny because one of my aldermen went to a conference in D.C. and he was talking to there was people from municipalities all over the country, and he said a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with is no different than what a lot of municipalities around the country are dealing with. So it didn't really help, but it was a little okay. At least we're not everybody's got infrastructure issues. Drainage, and when there's a change in government, the city employees and such, we have some of the best city employees in the world, but, it could be a little stressful sometimes. And I feel like our city employees have done a great job at rolling with all the changes. Mm-hmm. Obviously it's not without hiccups, but, I feel like we're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah. What aspects have you enjoyed most about the job?
It's the everyday stuff. Again, it's if somebody's calling and their trash is not getting picked up, or the ditch needs to be cleaned. It's the everyday stuff I like being able to help people with, because really, I think that's what's I think that's what government should be there for, is to help. It's the average everyday stuff that we need to be able to help with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I like. That's what I like. Just keep my head down, and or at least trying to keep my head down, and just do my job. Come in and do my job, help people out, and hopefully go home and maybe go to some business after hours events and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it.
Do you feel? I know that it's impossible to avoid backlash in a position such as the one you hold, but
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel support generally from the community?
Oh yeah. And here's the thing. I think when you're going to have backlash, you're going to have people who, you're not always going to be able to make everybody happy. No, there's no decision I can make that everybody's going to agree with 100%. But I think that it's important to, even if you disagree with somebody, you can agree to disagree. And I think that most people can do that. And when you have sometimes social media, obviously, I think escalates it into where just because someone is speaking really loudly doesn't mean that it's a vast majority of people. So that they may think that way, So I think that what we're seeing is, people who, when you're on social media and all of that, people think that just because there's a lot of stuff being shared, people talking, I think most people are kind of getting tired of social media. They're tired of fighting with people. So a lot of people just stay off. And then you have extremists on both sides and people with bad intentions on both sides, or maybe they're just crude and such. I don't know, who just constantly going at each other. So I think a lot of times that it may look a lot worse on the surface than it really is. Not to saying that there's not issues or not things that we need to address, but I think that everything can get escalated on social media further than it may actually be in real life.
Yeah.
So
because people can have their opinions just thrown out there, and I think there's a level that it probably gets ramped up a little bit because you're not actually there in person talking to whoever it is that you're arguing with or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but it's like, okay, we can disagree on policy. We can disagree on the way things should be run all day long. But to go forward and say, well, you don't agree with my policy, you don't agree with this, therefore you're a racist, or therefore you're a snowflake, or therefore you're just a crying little, whiny liberal, or you're a white supremacist. It's like people are taking, for instance, I'm very fiscally conservative, when it comes to taxes and economy and such. And people even now these days are like, oh, if you agree with tax cuts, you're racist. It's like, what? Well, how does that? We're talking two different. We're talking an economic sphere and a like. If okay, can I come back and say Forbes has already shown clearly that the Affordable Care Act raised insurance premiums? Well, who does that hurt? The people who are the most vulnerable in society, and a lot of times that's minorities. That's people that's poor folks. So by using a lot of that logic, I can go behind and say, look, if you supported the Affordable Care Act, then you're a racist. You just want white people to succeed because you supported a policy that raised premium prices, which hurt the most vulnerable society. But I know that's not true. You know what I'm saying? I know just because someone supported the Affordable Care Act, we have a disagreement on maybe the way healthcare should be run, but I'm not going to go and attack them and say that they're a racist. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what you're seeing a lot. And I think it's been ramped up in the past year or two, and it's very unfortunate. And I think that's contributing to a lot of, and what I think you need is people on both sides who, and really conservatives need to do a better job at this too, is when, you have somebody who will, get on there and be, on social media or wherever and be bashing a liberal or whatever it is. It's both sides need to do a better job at calling out. I don't want to necessarily say their side, but conservatives need to do a better job at calling out inflamed rhetoric. I'm not saying I've done a perfect job at it, but really when it comes to me, I'm just a mayor. I'm trying to just do the best for my city. That's all I'm trying to do. Like, again, you don't have to agree with all my policies. You don't have to agree with certain things that I do, but all I ask is that I'm big on giving people the benefit of the doubt and going in with good faith effort. So, I mean, I feel like we're beating around the bush, and we'll just get into it. The flag. People, like I said, people don't have to agree with me on the flag. People don't have to. People can think whatever they want about the flag is a symbol. Whichever way somebody relates to a symbol, I can't dictate that. But what I do ask is that just at the very least, just give people the benefit of the doubt that if they want to honor their state, if they want to be proud of their state and fly the flag, it doesn't mean that somebody's a racist or anything like that. And really, that was my intention the whole time, from the very beginning, whenever it went up. And not only that, but the flag has always been up in Ocean Springs. Only the whole thing has to do with me putting one flag up, and it's at City Hall. But the flag's always flown, So all I was trying to do is respect my state, honor my state. I'm very glad to be from Mississippi. We definitely have our own problems. We definitely have our own issues, but I think that this is a special state with that breeds a lot of very interesting and special people. I mean, without Mississippi, American music would be nowhere near what it is today.
Very different.
I mean, B.B. King, Elvis Presley, you can go on and on. So we have a culture in Mississippi that I'm very proud of.
Although it did largely come from, black people and slavery and things like that too.
Oh yeah, I mean, as far as the Mississippi that I know, I kind of feel like this state, where we've been beat down for so long. And I'm just talking about the people in general. We have a lot of poverty in this state, and so I almost feel like to make it in this state, you really, really have to have a drive. And I also feel like this state breeds a lot of humility, which I value. But that I'm kind of chasing rabbits here, but that's what it is. I love my state. I love my country. It sounds kind of cliche, I know, but that's I think mayor flies state flag should not be a controversial headline.
Yeah,
that's kind of my perspective.
Yeah. On it. And just to add on that, it's going back to the music thing. It's kind of a double-edged sword in a weird way, because me as somebody who loves the blues, blues and rock and roll. Does that mean I love slavery? Well, no, but that's the circumstances under which it occurred. So
that's a great
kind
point.
Of a weird way to look at it. Can we talk about the incident that happened this week with the KKK supposedly posting a video directed at one of the members of the
organization? Yeah, and that's the Klan is it's 2018. The fact that we're still having to deal with a racist group like that is ridiculous. And I think that is one thing that people who do support the current design of the flag do really need to step back. And I'm not saying that, again, like everything I just said, I'm not saying that the vast majority of people who may support the flag don't agree with them, but I think that people need to step back and say, okay, this is something that we're fighting over, the design of the flag. And it's very clear that it draws out a lot of very negative reactions towards it. And I think people who support the current flag need to take that into consideration. Again, my position on the flag is never I've and it may need to change. That's another thing. It may need to change. By saying that is, and again, all I wanted, but back to the actual situation. Yeah, it was a horrific situation. The KKK is again, just a outdated, not even outdated. They should have never existed. A racist terrorist group, and they've been in Ocean Springs before. Well, they've been on the coast before, probably about 2016, I believe. They did come in Ocean Springs, actually physically came into Ocean Springs and distributed pamphlets. And the state flag was up there. So, just a few years ago, they actually did come into Ocean Springs physically with state flags up there. And so that's also something I want people to, think about, is that, we're seeing a lot of people going and pointing the fingers, who's responsible. And a lot of fingers are pointing at me. Well, in 2016, when the Klan actually did come and the state flags were still up at that point, where were the fingers pointing at elected officials then? I mean, if
were you in office at the time that they?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. And that's kind of my point. And here's the thing, people when if you have a legit, and I'm not going to say if, there's a lot of people who have a big problem with the fact, and that's perfect. I completely respect that. I understand and I get it. But to sit here and try to point fingers at me and blame me for stuff like that, when just a few years ago, incident happened and, everybody came together and said, we don't want to accept this. And there was no pointing fingers, and the flag was up. The flag was up then.
How was that situation handled? Were they allowed to be out there and
when they distributed pamphlets?
yeah? I mean, is
It's a
that
freedom
covered
of-
under freedom of speech?
Yeah.
I mean,
And,
I assume that law enforcement and stuff was on site to kind of make sure nothing got out of hand.
Well,
or
I don't
anything.
know. I don't know all the details of the situation, but they, from what I understand, now I haven't really dug into it, and I tried to, and really, I mean, we're talking about it here, but I hate that we're having to talk about it, but I haven't really dug up, but I do know that, yeah, from what I understand, they distributed some pamphlets, and I guess kind of like at night when people weren't. So I don't know if they caught them or anything like that, but yeah, it was. But I think it was a freedom of speech thing. They said, obviously it's horrific and we don't want it, but I think that it was. I can't remember what all came out from it, but again, it's but that happened when Barack Obama was president. So, if everybody could get along, then if fingers weren't being pointed then why are they being pointed now? That's kind of it. And I'm not trying to, the Klan is horrific. They shouldn't even exist. A lot of this stuff shouldn't exist. But what I'm saying is that I feel like a lot of it is getting escalated, and people are pointing the fingers at the wrong person, and I'm not going to say I've handled every situation perfectly. I'm not going to say that at all. But personally, I believe I've been getting treated unfair. Yeah. So it's a horrible situation. And, I came, and you saw, I don't know if you saw my statement.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. And I think that, I hate the fact that we even have to talk about this stuff.
A part of me almost wants to sit down and have a podcast with these guys. You know what I mean? But then again,
I know. Well, and I know, and that's why I appreciate you having me on here, because I feel like if we could just actually have conversations like this, you could clear up a lot of misunderstandings. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, and you're seeing it on both sides, and it's escalating on both sides to where you can't have a conversation. And that's the thing, is that I've heard, well, the mayor doesn't want to listen to anybody, or he doesn't want. Well, I've been getting hammered about this for 8 months, close to 8 months. I've stated my case numerous times. I'm not saying you have to agree with it, but the thing is, I'll say, look, and I'll ask you this: the logic of wanting to respect your state and honor your state. I'm not saying you have to agree with that, but you can understand that logic, right? So by knowing that, you could say, okay, well, I disagree with your logic. And the state flag does this, or the state flag represents that. That's a fine art. I mean, you can have that argument, but once you start insinuating that I'm putting it up because I'm trying to send signals, or I'm trying to, intimidate people, or I'm trying to do any of that, that I think is what, when you start to insert that language, I've seen stuff about, my name has been absolutely dragged through the mud regarding this. And I've said, I've said it from the beginning, and I've even called for a new vote on the state flag. I think we do need a new vote, and it may need to change. It's very clear that people feel very strongly about this. And I think that, if I heard one analogy about it that I really like. Somebody said that, if we're going to, if I'm going to invite somebody into my home to stay the night or be my roommate or something like that, why would I want to have symbols on the wall that I know would be hurtful to them, or offensive to them, or something like that? And if it's something, then I may just go ahead and put it in my in my room or in, more of a private space instead of the shared common space. And that's a very good analogy. And I think that people who do support the flag really need to think about that. But as far as me, all I'm trying to do is honor and respect my state, and do my job. That's it. I'm not even remotely racist. I like to think that I get along with everybody as much as I can. And it's just a shame that a lot of this has come to that. And another ironic thing is that, there's people trying to make me out to be like this far right social conservative, again, who is racist and all this. But, if I'll just say it like this. There's a lot more low hanging fruit to go after to paint like that than me. I support gay marriage. Oh, by the way, did you know my grandfather was gay?
No, I didn't.
My grandfather was named Roland Dobson. He was a leader in the gay community in New Orleans. He was a fashion designer. Have you heard of the Crew of Apollo?
I have, but I'm not familiar with what they do.
So it's made up of all men, and it's a gay crew. My grandfather founded numerous chapters of Crew of Apollo. And like I said, he wrote articles for numerous newspapers and such throughout New Orleans, but he was a gay, a leader in the gay community in New Orleans. Support gay marriage. I've never had a racist, I couldn't care less what race you are. I've been in interracial relationships before, a few of them. And so I think that there's, that all people see sometimes is Republican, and he supports this or he supports that, therefore he must be XYZ. But again, if people would just take the time to, instead of just assuming a lot of things or insinuating a lot of things, if they would just take the time, just have a conversations with me. That's all I ask. And I mean, an actual conversation, not why are you hanging up a flag that is why are you doing a racist thing? A lot of times when people say they're having a conversation, they're not having a conversation. I feel like me and you are actually having a conversation.
Mm-hmm. So, which you commented on, before when we were setting this up, that you mm-hmm. appreciated the fact that this format is like it is, as opposed to other, things that you might be on where it's like, and I've seen some interviews with you where it is that, where it's, here's a state flag question.
Right.
Here's a hurricane question or whatever. And you have like 30 seconds to respond to that, and then they cut you off with another question. Right. And then it's great to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, how do you look? Mm-hmm. Did you have a real conversation, or were bullet points just thrown around?
Yeah. And that's politics, unfortunately, and I hate it. And
it's the format of just how communication has been done for years and years, and now
it is, yeah.
Now through the internet and things like that, it's kind of opened up a little bit more, but people still have to have the choice and the mindset that they can step outside those parameters to give listeners something else.
Right.
And
that's why, and I don't, again, I don't know if it's my age that I'm, I can only assume you don't have a lot of elected officials coming on the podcast. And I feel like a lot of elected officials don't come on podcasts, but I feel like they should. I feel like podcasts and, I don't know.
Could you imagine if Trump and Hillary had been able to do something like this?
That would have been fun. But it's, I don't know. It's just unfortunate. And I think social media has really played a lot of, because it's very just bite-sized pieces of information. Mm-hmm. People aren't, a lot of times people will post articles without even opening and clicking on it to read what it is. I mean, it's, and we've all been guilty. I'm not sitting here and saying I've done it. Everybody's done it.
We've all dipped our toes in the ADD culture.
It happens.
It's by nature, almost by design, that it's kind of slowly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're learning how to process and assimilate all this information.
Yeah, we
don't know how to do it. It's new technology.
Mm-hmm.
Our phones, I mean, that's new technology. We've just had it for a little while.
Yeah, and that is one thing. I remember talking to a buddy of mine years ago, and we were just talking about the rise of social media, and I was, our humans have never had this kind of, I mean,
all the world's information
Yeah,
and access to communication to connect
24/7,
with anybody
24/7.
in your pocket. It doesn't even seem like, when you talk about it, it doesn't even seem real. If you had talked about it in the 70s,
Yeah.
I mean, it would have seemed so science fiction.
Mm-hmm. And I think that what we're seeing is society is really having to come to terms with, okay, we've never had to do this. We've never had this type of tool, and so how do we use it responsibly? Because that's what it is. I mean, technology is a tool, and like all tools, it could be used for good, and it can be used for bad. The same electricity that can cook you a hamburger can also kill you. You know, that can cook your dinner can also, it can burn you in an electric chair. And that's all technology.
Mm-hmm. Nuclear power could supply power to an entire whatever state, country, or
Mm-hmm.
it could leave the land permanently
scorch.
Yeah.
And so I think that with social media, that's our society is really was really just coming to terms with how exactly we need to use this, and how do we use it responsibly, and how do we it's a tool. And so, and that's like, I get on, I try to look up, I have YouTube subscriptions where I follow like TED Talks and stuff like that. I'll follow National Geographic, and or
Do you follow Coastal Noise?
I do follow Coastal Noise.
Sweet.
But
Shameless plug.
yeah, and and of course I use it for entertainment too.
Mm-hmm.
I got some games and stuff, but I try to get the best out of it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't follow a bunch of meme pages on Instagram, because I certainly do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know. It's
do you have YouTube Red, where you can download videos and watch them offline and stuff like that?
No, I thought about it, but I don't know. I have.
You get Google Music too for the same. It's like whenever you subscribe to, I think. It's
you
like
get both.
$10 a month, and you get both. You can.
Interesting.
You get no ads on YouTube. You can download whatever you want, basically, and then you get Google Music, which has all the podcasts and classic rock stations or whatever. So I think it's pretty dope. So I love downloading videos, because I don't have a plan. I think I can watch like 30 minutes of offline videos, whatever my cell phone plan is. So for me, being able to download videos, and if you go through, it's like, how does a manual car work?
Yeah.
How do you skin a deer the most efficient way? How do you make this Indian-based tea or whatever? It's like, all the stuff. And I love the fact that I can just have access to that, offline at all times. It's really cool.
Yeah. No, I've seen the plans, and I did consider trying it out. I don't know. I mean, I have like Amazon Music. That's usually what I use for my music. Of course, Netflix and Hulu, all that. So it just seemed like just yet another. But I do watch YouTube all the time, so I don't know. I may have to consider it. I may have to check it out. But yeah, I don't know. You just see all this technology, and it's insane. And we're just trying to figure out how to navigate through it.
Yeah. And it's weird because it provides everybody with a platform to voice their thoughts. And I try to think, honestly, how many people in the world are, what you might consider intelligent people versus your baseline versus just like below that. And which of those three groups are there more of? Right. It's definitely not the intelligent people that are the bulk of human existence, I would think. Those are more of the outliers, right?
Well, I mean, you're going to have, your really, really smart people, and then your average people that are made up in the middle, and then, but so yeah, I don't.
I should say that's not to discourage or say that people shouldn't have a voice, but there's a lot of those people who get really I think intelligence also comes with ability to react to things.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of those people will react, and it might not always be in the best mind frame of that they've looked into everything. Maybe intelligence also, I think, comes from diversity and flexibility of consciousness.
Right.
So if you have all these people who aren't as open or whatever, then you're going to get a lot of I mean, just go through your Facebook feed. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And just like you were saying that a lot of people are getting turned off by social media and Facebook and stuff like that, I'm hearing that more and more too, of people who are using it, especially like artist friends and stuff like that, who need to use it to promote their work or be connected to people. You know, you as a political figure need to connect with people, but then sometimes you just start going through, and it's also just the way the algorithms work. You kind of have to interact with people if you want other people to see your stuff. So you're going through trying to find things to like or comment on, and you see all this garbage too.
Yeah.
And if you are a reactive person, or it's easy for you to go down the rabbit hole, then you'll get wrapped up in that. And I know people who just get angry. They just get so attached to these things that are going on in the news and on social media and all this kind of stuff. And I'm pretty good about being able to disconnect from that and seeing for what it is, and knowing that by not getting wrapped up into that, I can stay focused into my things, or the things that are important that I know are what matter. But a lot of people can't do that. We're still learning how to do it. Our minds are still trying to filter that stuff. And some people are just wrapped into it. I mean, we have a culture that has been, in the last 10, 20 years, have statistically shown that we want reality television. We want these dumb shows following these dumb people,
Just conflict and
just
constant
conflict, and
happenings.
and it's scripted, but they brand it as reality.
Yeah.
and it's material, stuff, and it's gossip, and people just thrive on it. They love it. And then the news media, they realize that
It's ratings.
fear and drama sell.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, because we're not running away from tigers, and we're not hunting every day and banding into small communities. So I think there's a basic human need for us to still have that fear, or that primal something that we need to be connected to. And I think in a lot of ways we get that from the media and from social media.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. And in fact, this was reminds me of kind of, I've studied a lot of theology. I've studied a lot of religion. I did it academically in college, and that is one thing that is very, very. You started to really hit on something that is very true, is that when people are fearful, or not even fearful, but people, it's a lot easier to rally against an other, like an outside or a separate threat or enemy or something like that. And that's a lot of times, the analogy I use is especially like when it comes to religious extremism, but really it could go for really all kind of, zealotry or just political extremism. But if you have a guy in the middle of Biloxi on Highway 90, and he's got a sign and he's yelling about the government coming to get him, they're coming to get me, they're coming to get me, they're coming to get me. Most people would drive by and never look at him because they would just assume he's, he's a crazy person. But what happens when the government does come get him? It legitimizes him. And so what happens is that once you start, and I'm not, if somebody's out of hand or making it to where, sometimes you have to do what you got to do, but that's really the importance of the freedom of speech. Is to let ideas be debated and thrown out in the public sphere, so that we can say, okay, we agree with this, we don't agree with that. But anyway, kind of back to the other. Whenever you religious extremism, for instance, on foreign policy. In the Middle East, just for example, you'll have all of these extremists who will just preach about, death to America. For instance, I forgot the guy's name, but he was testifying in front of Congress, and he was from Middle East somewhere. And basically he was saying that he was a foreign exchange student in the United States for a while. And, he went back and told his village, people lived in his village about all the great things that the U.S. and everything that they knew about the United States. And a lot of the people in his community had a good outlook on the United States because of him. But that all changed when we started dropping bombs and started killing innocent civilians. So then the extremists were able to come in and say, look, we've been telling you that they're coming for us. We've been telling you that, they're evil and XYZ. And you can just prove it right there with the bombs. And so it's the other. It's as soon as you can attach, the other is to blame, or the other, it's what North Korea does. They blame all their situation on Western influence. Really, I mean, just completely outside. It's not, if it's not North Korean, it's bad. So, yeah, you're right. It's people need to be able to find a common enemy. It's kind of like we were kind of joking about I mean, you grew up on the coast, so and sometimes the high schools and the cities will kind of we'll bicker back and forth a little bit here and there, but this BP oil money, the coast is unified. You know what I'm saying? Like, we'll bicker back and forth, but don't talk about the coast as a whole. Mm-hmm. That's right in line with that too. So
yeah.
I don't really know how we got on that,
but well, and not to beat this, but I did want to ask you, and maybe I should ask you to back up and just give me the full bullet points of exactly what went on with the flag as far as its status. I know, so it was up, then took it down, and now the Alderman Council put it back up.
Okay, so all right. So when I got in office, it always flown. It was flying in the police departments, fire departments. It was flying in on all the other municipal buildings. All I did was make it City Hall equal with all the other buildings. That's what I did. I put one flag up and joined City Hall with the rest of the city. Obviously, there were some people that didn't like that. So, we fast forward, I said, look, and back to, again, all I'm trying to do is do my job, respect the state. But it was clear that it was becoming so much of a distraction. It was affecting the day-to-day operations of the city. Mm-hmm. So I said, look, I need to focus on what I need to focus on. I need to focus on doing my job. I'll just take it down. Well, the resolution passed at the next meeting to go ahead and put it up and mandate that it's up. So it's up. And that's really where we're at now.
So you took it down. How long was it down?
About a week.
A week. Yeah. Okay. So then the council, the
aldermans.
Mm-hmm. How many people? 4?
How many people voted for it?
Yeah.
All but one.
Okay. And how many total are there?
There's total 7. So 6-1.
Okay.
And again, they did it, and
well, what my question is what I'm getting to is, how much power as mayor do you have to
change that?
So
I can veto, but I can only veto a 4-3 vote. I can veto a 4-3 vote, and then the board can come back, and if they get a 5th, they can override it with a 5th if there's a vote that flips. Mm-hmm. So basically anything over a 5 in the affirmative, I can't, there's nothing I can do.
But you can voice your opinion on it, right?
I mean, yeah, I can always voice my opinion on anything.
Okay. So your stance on it though is your public stance on it that you would prefer it back down?
No, well, my public stance has never changed. The only reason it was, and really the reasoning behind the alderman that did it is the same as when I put it up originally. That it's, look, we're just trying to. The state does a lot for Ocean Springs. It does a lot for all the communities around here. And again, I don't want to go through all that again. But
sure.
but that's where they're. That's what they did it for, because we want to be a part. We're Ocean Springs, Mississippi. That's where we live, Ocean Springs, Mississippi. But as far as my, all I want to do is get to work, man. That's all I want. I'm just trying to work. I wish the flag would just, if we change it, fine. We need a new vote. I've said that from day one. This is something that everyone really needs to voice their opinion on again. We need a new vote. Was I raised to the way I was raised to view it? I didn't look at it as racist myself, but again, I have my particular life perspective. I have the way that, I see things, and someone may see different, and their perspective is just as valid as mine. I don't know. It's just, we need a new vote. It needs to, all this needs to die. And, I just want to get to work. That's all I want to do.
Has the LGBT community come at you as a result of the flag? Is that how? Because you brought it up earlier, and I wanted to ask where that flag had come from. Is that tied in with the flag? Or?
Some people, there's some who will try to lump that in with it. I mean, if that's their perspective, I that's fine. But
you were more just pointing out that like you're an open-minded guy. You're not.
In fact, I used to think that I was. In fact, I used to actually classify myself as social, and that was kind of my point. Is that there's this idea and these people putting out there that I'm just this far right social conservative who and this isn't just because someone's social conservative. First, I want to clarify this: just because someone's social conservative doesn't mean XYZ or whatever it is that people claim, but people are making me out to be like I'm something I'm not. And it's very clear. I mean, that most people, if you just ask, if you just try to have a conversations with me, you would get that. I don't know. It's just, it's unfortunate, but back to your question. Yes, I have heard, some arguments here and there that, I was anti, I didn't like gay people or I was homophobic or something like that, which is just, like I said, I grew up knowing I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for a gay man. Literally, it was my grandfather. So there's not a racist, homophobic bone in my body. And I think that's the most unfortunate thing is that, again, there's low hanging fruit. If they want to go, okay. Whenever, I don't know if, did you look at any of the comments regarding the article about the incident? I don't know if you did, but when you looked on there was a lot of people saying, oh, well, it's not real. It's BS. It's not real. It's not real. When the Klan sent the video,
they were saying that the video of the Klan wasn't real, or
well, there were some people saying that it was just a
group of people or something like that.
It was a made up thing.
Okay.
No, I don't agree with that. I think the Klan did it. The Klan's a bunch of shitheads, but what we're seeing is that it's kind of like the Chicken Little sky's falling thing. Mm-hmm. People have been painting the Ocean Springs community or me or whoever it is, or just the Gulf Coast community, or just even take it larger. I mean, people are sitting here saying the worst things, saying, oh, so-and-so goes in and puts on their hood when they're, or white supremacist this and everybody, everybody is hates each other. And that's fear mongering. So what you had was a group who constantly does that type of stuff. And then when they come out and say, hey, this actually happened, people didn't believe them. And so I think that that's also what you're seeing moving forward in this really heated rhetoric, nationally and really globally, I would say, is that people are oh, the world's going to end, and I would argue that if we're going to talk about the world ending and things, huge things, let's talk about our $21 trillion in debt. Let's talk about the fact that we're breaking up innocent homes to throw people in jail for a plant. Let's talk about our foreign policy is completely insane. We have a lot of serious problems, but to sit here and try to make people out like they're a white supremacist or a racist because they don't agree with your tax plan, I mean, come on. What are we doing? Mm-hmm. And all that does is escalate it. And then when something does happen, people are already so mistrusting of each other that it's hard for people to come together and see a real like a threat like that, a real serious threat, because how do I know it's if you're constantly calling people a white supremacist, well, then this is just yet another day. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think and that's what you're seeing is that when you constantly throw these type of people get immune to it. People are people just get it's they don't want to hear it. It's like if all they hear is just you're a white supremacist, this people's white, this people's race, blah blah blah. It's like, okay, well, it's like they start to lose their meaning because what are we doing? I don't know. It's just it's that, but that's what you're seeing is people are getting so fed up with constantly hearing it, that when a threat does happen, and there is racism in this country. There is racism. There are shitheads. There's sexist people, and but what we don't need to be doing is creating problems that's not there and creating monsters to go after. Because I think it hurts when those type of things actually do happen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
in line with local news stuff, I kind of wanted to see if you could comment on this because it's kind of a hot topic issue in the country right now. The incident with the gun that was found at the school. Talking about it seems kind of weird to me because it's a very unique situation.
Mm-hmm. The one in Ocean Springs.
Yeah.
And they're still investigating, so I can't really go into too much detail.
Yeah.
But what I can say is that obviously it's a horrible situation. What it is it was oversight and it was an accident. I mean, obviously it's a pretty big accident, and it's a very serious accident.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just glad that nobody got hurt. That it was. And I will say that the school handled it perfectly. Everybody involved handled it perfectly. The family is being cooperative, being honest and upfront. So yeah, I mean, it was an accident. I know obviously people whose children were in the community, that doesn't excuse it, and it doesn't excuse it. But like I said, it's my main thing is I'm just glad nobody was hurt.
Yeah. So. What are some things that you'd like to see happen in Ocean Springs? Some things that you'd like to see maybe set in motion, even if they were things that maybe didn't fully develop or materialize while you're in office, but maybe just getting the ball rolling on. Are there any big projects that you're thinking of undertaking in that regards?
So one thing we're looking at is getting fiber internet.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. And we've talked to C Spire who's thinking about coming in, and we just want to make sure that we cross all our I's and cross all our T's and dot our I's and do our homework on that. So the fiber internet, we're still interested in annexation. I'd love to bring in, and the area we've been looking at on annexation is essentially, I mean, we would have to really figure out the details, but basically it's from 57 and 90 to north up 57 to a little bit north of I-10,
mm-hmm.
and then grabbing all of Ocean Springs Road. So basically that east end of town that isn't in the city limits yet, we would bring them in and just try to develop it. And but yeah, so we're doing that annexation. The retail organization that I alluded to earlier. Excited to get those people in. The beach, of course. We got a lot of stuff going on. I wouldn't mind talking to C Spire about see what they can help us out with. I've heard people to ask about like internet free zones or free internet zones. Complete opposite, I guess. Free internet zones. We'll see what we can do about that. Can't promise, but we'll see what we can do.
We could use some internet free zones too.
Internet, yeah, you're right. Actually, now that I think about it,
maybe
that would be pretty good.
Yeah, like special parks where you could just go and you just know that your phone isn't gonna pick up anything.
That would be nice.
Yeah,
that would be. Oh, and speaking of parks, we're getting a dog park. We're moving on that.
Cool. Everybody can support that, right?
Oh yeah. I don't see it. Yeah, hopefully that won't be controversial. And it's the location's great, but it's behind the police department. So there's already, electricity out there, and like I said, it's by the police department, so people feel safe. There's a walking track. There's the Vietnam Memorial out there, the Civic Center. So it's really just it's a good place. It's a safe place. There's already enough to do out there, and so we're just really excited to get it out there.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to disconnect? What do you do to get off the frequency of being mayor?
I'm I'm kind of introverted. I appreciate my alone time. I'm a big sports fan. I watch a lot of basketball and football, primarily my two main sports.
Are you a Tennessee fan?
Yeah, big Tennessee Titans fan.
How does that? How did you come to be a Tennessee fan?
So growing up,
I should pre-state that I'm not like a sports
Big
spectator at all.
yeah.
I just something I noticed.
Yeah.
And I was curious about.
So growing up, my dad lived in Tennessee the vast majority of my life, and so I kind of my aunts live up there. My sister grew up there with my dad, and it's just I kind of view it as my second home. I got the majority of my family is originally from Louisiana, but with my dad actually living in Tennessee, and then on holidays and summers and stuff, I spent in Tennessee. So that's how it came about.
You get around to Nashville much?
Not as much as I would like. In fact, I've been my birthday's next month, and I was thinking about heading up there for my birthday. Plus, the Titans are getting new uniforms next week, which I'm really pumped about. So I just hope they don't. I just hope they don't mess it up.
Fashion's in your blood.
I guess so. I guess, and it's funny because I definitely didn't get that side of my grandfather. He. I guess my fashion isn't on par with him, but he passed away. And I guess maybe if he was still alive, he could help me out. But
Have you ever been to Bonnaroo out in Tennessee?
no, I haven't. My family lives near in the Jackson, Tennessee area.
Mm-hmm.
And where Bonnaroo? Where is that again?
That's a good question. I've only been once. It was like 2010, I want to say. Me and a friend were talking about it last night about maybe going. I don't know what the lineup is or anything like that, but I just remember that first year that I went.
Is it in Memphis?
No. I forget the name of it. It's a farm. So I think some guy just rents out the farm,
Oh yeah,
Woodstock style.
yeah.
And
That would be fun.
I just remember that the ride getting in is just hours of bumper to bumper, like standstill traffic, and then you're just creeping along, and it's once you get in though, then you're there. It just takes a long time to get everybody processed through. But let me see, Bonnaroo, developed and produced by Superfly, blah blah blah. Manchester, Tennessee.
I don't know where that's at.
I don't either. Even though I've been, I remember there being like a lot of mountains. Like when we went in, there was a lot of mountains.
That would be on the east, on the eastern end.
Yeah,
towards,
that makes sense.
Yeah, towards I'm drawing a blank. Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, I assume.
Been to Gatlinburg a couple times. That's a nice area.
Yeah, beautiful. Gatlinburg is beautiful. Most of my family, like I said, Jackson, Tennessee. Is you got Memphis and you got Nashville, and Jackson's right in the middle. So my family's more on the western end of Tennessee.
Okay.
But
yeah, Manchester is southeast of Nashville and northwest of Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Okay. So maybe like north, just above Alabama somewhere.
Yeah, a little. Shall we say northeast of Huntsville?
I got you.
I think I said northeast of Chattanooga. It's northwest of Chattanooga, northeast of Huntsville. So,
yeah, I can't wait to go back up to Nashville. Like I said, I haven't completely decided, but hopefully I'll get over there either on my birthday or around. Get some new Titans gear. And Nashville's a beautiful city. I know we both talked about Houston.
Yeah,
not Houston, but Austin. And Nashville's very similar to Austin.
Yeah, I went for the first time last year to Nashville, and was surprised the geography of the place. It's got a lot of rolling kind of hills, which it varies it up. It's just pretty cool.
Right. I love it. I love Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful city. That and Austin. Man, I want to go back to Austin.
Yeah.
I haven't been since I left, because I used to live there, and I haven't been back in a few years, so I'm going to get back over there.
Yeah. Just got to find time to put down the suit.
Yeah.
And be able to get around.
Oh, yeah. Well, so I know I asked you a little bit about it earlier, but man, your trip is I wanted to make it official on the record on the podcast, but You're doing, man. I wish I'm so envious of your trip. I wish I could have gone.
Yeah.
Done something like that. Get away.
Yeah.
So tell a little bit about where you went again.
So I took off for Austin, and I had some friends there. A friend, rather, I should say, and his family lived out there, and spent Thanksgiving out there. And his wife just cooked the most dope spread of just it was her Thanksgiving's like her holiday.
Yeah.
So she made all this incredible food, and the little town of Buda is where they reside. And we went into Austin and around that area, which I'd been to Austin previously to actually like be in the city and all that. So it's just a cool place. And then from there, I went up to Palo Duro Canyon, which is the right after the Grand Canyon. It's the second biggest canyon in the U.S., which I never knew about it, and it's just south of Amarillo.
Mm-hmm.
So I went out there. I kept calling them, trying to see if there was going to be a fire ban, and they said, we don't know. And then the day of, I go out there. The morning I called them, they still didn't know. I went to Cabela's and bought like $100 worth of firewood and fire starter and a hatchet, and I drove 8 hours to get out there. I got out there at like 9:30, and there's this big fire ban in effect sign, and it's below freezing.
Oh,
And
funny.
so I go out there by myself. It's dark, and like, you know, I'm descending, I'm going down, and the headlights are just kind of illuminating in front of me, and I'm like hunched over my steering wheel. And I'm just focused on what I'm doing, but outside of my car, I can just feel this vast emptiness outside, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I get out there and I set up and everything like that. And 2 a.m., I'm just freezing, and I just climb in my car and I just wait for morning. But that was a really cool canyon. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And I drove on from there through New Mexico, went through Colorado Springs, and a little bit of what I told you of you know, the Colorado area, driving through Fort Collins and Boulder and Aspen and Cripple Creek and back through Colorado Springs and Denver again. And then I came back through to come home for Christmas. I went through Oklahoma, which I'd never been through, Kentucky, and then went through and drove through the national forests of Arkansas, which I can't pronounce the name. It's like Okachata, I don't know, some sort of maybe Native American name or something like that. But Arkansas, I'd never been through that place either, and it was actually quite beautiful. They've got, you know, some.
I got a speeding ticket in Arkansas.
Really? Yeah.
That was my welcome to Arkansas, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, but it's a pretty place. But yeah, it was a lot of fun of just kind of wandering for a little bit.
Yeah, man, I wish I could definitely use a just getting away vacation. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Know,
Well, hey man, I've got quite the toy for it now, which I should tell people that, you know, this is the first. I've been talking on the podcast for months now about doing more long-term traveling and doing like a van life situation. And I just recently modified those plans in the last couple months to a truck camper. And I have said truck camper now. Yeah. So I'm moving forward on the dreams and the goals. And but I'm also, you know, this is my home. Yeah. You know, all my family is here, and you know, I love, you know, the house that I have now down here, and so I'm trying to figure out structure a way that I can go off but still be able to come home, you know, whether it's driving back here or, you know, leaving the camper we're at a friend's place, you know, somewhere in the country, and then just flying home for a little bit and hanging out here. But it's nice that I have it now, that I can get used to it, understand it, figure out how it works, and go out with my friends and go to cool places. So, you know, maybe while the weather's still good and the mosquitoes are still out bay or something like that, we can make some trips to go somewhere cool or something like that.
Yeah,
so
that would be great.
I
love it. I never really been to the, you know, New York and Connecticut and New Jersey and all that area. I'd love to.
Pennsylvania is about as far, and DC are about as far up north as I've ever.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
DC. I've been to DC and I've been to Pittsburgh, but that's as close to that area that I've been. Never been to.
A lot of my original family's from Pennsylvania, actually.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, it's funny because I remember when I was young, I used to always say, "Man, I really, really want to go to Europe." And now I've been to Europe. Now I've actually really wanting to get to South America. I've really been wanting to go check out, Central and South America, Brazil. Go check out some of the old ruins from, the Mayans and such.
Yeah, Aztec culture and everything.
Yeah,
I've got a lot of interest in doing that as well. I've looked to try to see. I don't think you can drive down there though.
probably not.
Yeah, the mountains and stuff, it gets right as you're going south of Central America. I think it just gets to, but I'm sure there's ferries or something like that you can get as far as you can. And then, so that would be really cool. I've heard of people taking bikes down there,
Well,
and just going through a bike tour.
I'd have to get in better shape than I am now.
Well, I mean like motorcycles.
Oh well,
Yeah.
Even that though, that could still put a wear on you.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I was looking up different it was a travel channel. It was a travel channel on YouTube, and this guy just recorded all his travels and just talk about it. And one thing that he always talked about on all the ones I saw from South and Central America is that you want to look like a local. Because if you give people a reason to think that you got money and you're a tourist, you just got to be safe. I mean, it's where anywhere, not trying to scare anybody, but just don't flaunt it.
Yeah, that was one of my biggest complaints about India is just that the major cities, you couldn't really walk around in peace because people see that you're an American or you're just white, and they just want to know where you're going, what do you want to do, how much money do you have on you, basically. And so to be able to blend in makes a lot better. I mean, it got to a point where one day I just wanted to walk the city by myself in Mumbai, and the best way that I thought I could do that was with sunglasses and a hat and music playing, and that was effective to a degree, but you still had to kind of blow people off. And I don't want to blow people off,
right.
But I'm here for an amount of time, and I want to see and do what it is that I want to do. And I want to just feel the experience of being in the city, walking around. And I don't necessarily want to be, interacted with, because then it kind of takes me out of, at least in that moment, I didn't want to be interacted with. You know what I mean? There's a time and a place, and sometimes when you're in those other countries, when they, a lot of countries, they idolize Western culture and they want to be a part of it, and they want to make you happy, and they want to involve you in those kinds of things. So there's just a matter of finding a balance to it. But South America would be a great place to check out. Brazil, Argentina, there's just so many places and Cuba is another place that I've actually kind of been recently interested in. I was listening to a podcast about a guy who wrote a book on the Cuban mafia, and he was talking about just what he likes about the place, like the energy there, the weather, the food. He described it as very sensual. The first day he was there, he fell in love and married the woman that he was with for 10 years, and it just sounds, the way he described it and the way he had a Cuban local with him talking about it, and it just sounded really interesting. I've never thought like Cuba, but I don't know, just Havana and different places. They just sound, all the old cars you would see from the 50s and 60s.
I always think of I go up. I've always liked I Love Lucy, and I always think of Ricky Ricardo.
Yeah.
Because I'm always talking about Havana and just growing up in Cuba. So
yeah,
that was I believe I Love Lucy. They set a lot of they had a lot of firsts. They were now I could be wrong, but from what I've been told, from my understanding, is Ricky and Lucy were the first interracial kiss on TV.
Oh, really?
Or maybe the first interracial couple that they filmed like in the same bed, or so. I don't know. It was something to do like that. And it was they had quite a bit of first involving Lucy and Ricky. I think they were the first couple at all, maybe not even interracial, that they showed laying in the same bed, because a lot of times, that was the 50s. A lot of times back then they would show them in two little twin beds.
This article here I'm reading says CBS didn't think Americans would buy that Lucy was married to a foreign man.
Yep. Shows how ahead of the time they were in the 50s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did they ever broadcast that show in color? Was that an ever in color show? 'Cause when I think of it, I only think of black and white. Yeah.
That's how I remember. But no, yeah, they have colorized some episodes, but I don't know if they've done them all. Yeah, I grew up watching Nick at Night and all that good stuff. So
yeah, same here.
Ricky, that was my first, I guess, introduction to, I guess, kind of Cuban culture was watching I Love Lucy.
Yeah. And I guess they only ran the series for like 6 years. It looks like 1951 to 1957.
Sounds about right. And I'm not trying to hijack and make us talk about I Love Lucy, but she that was they actually got divorced either right before or right after the show started, and they decided that one quote they said it was something to do with, instead of having divorce lawyers make money off us, we figured we would just do the show, and it was almost therapeutic for them.
So they were an actual married couple in real life?
Yeah, they were married and then got divorced, and like I said, I can't remember at what point in the show they got divorced, but they got divorced and then continued with the show. Now I take it back. They may have gotten divorced later on, because I know they had little Ricky. They had a baby, and they wrote that into the show too.
Wow.
It's been a while since I.
Roseanne is coming back with the same cast.
Yeah, I watched like a few minutes of the beginning the other day, and I didn't really care for Roseanne growing up, but I don't know. I guess since I'm older now, I can appreciate it.
Yeah, it just seems like an interesting move for them to continue on with it after all this time with the same cast. Interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of random. I'll probably give it a try. We'll check it out. I got it on they show it on Hulu, so I'll watch it there.
Yeah. Are there any other shows that you're into right now?
Oh man, I actually just finished, and I hate that it took me this long to finish it, but I just finished the last season of House of Cards last night.
Oh, cool.
Finished that.
This is the final season, you said? They're done?
Well, the latest season.
Okay.
They're currently making another season at the moment. From what I understand, Kevin Spacey's not going to be in it.
Really?
So
they decided to go
take
that route, huh?
Yeah, so that may not be true. That they may have. That was just one article I read, but so House of Cards, Bloodline. Have you heard of Bloodline?
I have. I think I watched the first like 2 or 3 episodes of it. It's a Netflix show, right?
Yeah, Netflix. And the first few episodes are kind of slow. But it's if you a lot of character development in the first few episodes,
right.
but if you give it time, it gets better. And one thing I really like about Bloodline is what I tell people is that it's family dynamics. It's all about family dynamics. So I would argue almost everybody could because I love House of Cards, but some people say, well, I'm not really into politics, so okay, fine. But everybody has a little, some little family dynamics. So Bloodline's pretty cool. Atypical, that's on Netflix. That's a good one. Love on Netflix. That was a pretty good one. I don't know. 11/22/63. Have you watched that?
Never heard of it.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good show. It's a Hulu original. It's directed by J.J. Abrams. James Franco is the lead, and it's a miniseries. I think it only has 8 episodes, but anyway, it's about so James Franco is his buddy who owns a diner. There's a time portal in the diner. And you go and walk into this time portal, and it sets you back at the exact same, you could walk in and then walk back out and walk back in. And every time you walk in, it puts you at the exact same time and place in 1960. I can't remember what day. So he has.
Oh, it's a Stephen King adaptation.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a novel. And so he goes back in time and stays for 3 years to prevent the assassination of JFK. It's amazing, and since it's a miniseries, it's not slow. I mean, it goes. It's fast. So that's a really good one. If you got Hulu, I suggest that to everybody. It's actually one of my favorite shows ever.
Really,
and it's a miniseries.
Wow.
It's that good. That good.
Speaking of time warps and stuff like that, Eddie Dixon, who I mentioned in the pre-show notes, he put me hip to. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm very interested to see it. It's a show called Counterpoint, and it's with J.K. Simmons, who's the guy that you see from State Farm commercials.
Mm-hmm.
It's a show about, apparently humanity discovers that there's a parallel universe that's very close to their own,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody exists like a replicated life, but they're different lives that they have.
Yeah.
And they realize that this thing exists, so they're trying to figure out how, and they can go back and forth between dimensions, and their government and politics are trying to regulate how things occur. And then there's one point in time there's one point in time where somebody comes over and there's a disease and it wipes out like 15% of the population on one side of the universe.
Wow.
So then they're struggling with that, and they regularly have meetings where groups of people will come into a conference room that's separated by a large glass window. Everybody sits in the same seats parallel to each other, and they read these codes to each other. It's just like gibberish, but they're exchanging information. They all wear suits and look the same, so that they're not giving any information about who they are on their other life. And J.K. Simmons in one universe plays this like very regular office cubicle, from what I understand, guy who's just, your average typical guy. And then in the other universe, he's like a spy who goes to retrieve people from the other universe who go rogue.
Oh, wow.
And it just sounds really interesting. And I asked him, I said, how do they get back and forth between these dimensions? He goes, it's a hallway. It's like a Cold War situation if it was in modern time. They have like checkpoints and barriers and things like that you have to go through.
So is it a Netflix show? Stars. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I saw a commercial or something for that, and because I remember shows and movies and such that have like this type of science fiction involving parallel universes or time travel, I love. So I feel like I saw advertisement for it at some point. Have you seen actually, do you have Amazon Prime? They have a lot of people don't use their videos, man. They have such good videos on Amazon. You can find a lot of good indie films on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
And one of them I found is oh man, I can't Coherence, I think maybe the name. And it's so these group of friends come to they're at a dinner party. And then there's this comet that's supposed to be on the way that night, and apparently it gets really close to Earth. And apparently, whenever it gets close to Earth, that like weird stuff starts happening. Well, what it is it's like a parallel universe, but it basically kind of collapses everything to where like basically the parallel universes are all, the doors are all like right there within that one little block or wherever the case may be. And so the lights go out, and then they see this other house that has lights, and they go to try to go over there. Well, it turns out basically that like when you walk into the street, you walk into like a almost like a roulette of parallel universes, and then when you walk back to what you at least assume is your house, it could be, you have no idea which actual house. So it's like an infinite amount of parallel universes. It's really, really good.
Oh, wow.
Look it up. It's so that one's really good. And
I saw Sneaky Pete on Amazon Prime. Like I just read it. Bryan Cranston is in it, and I should probably look up the description. It's been a while since I've actually, I just kind of, watched the trailer on it.
Sneaky Pete?
Sneaky Pete. And I want to say it's kind of a gritty crime drama looking thing. Yeah, so guy plays the role of Marius, a con man who tries to leave his old life behind by assuming the identity of his cellmate, Pete. While Pete's family doesn't have reasons to suspect that he is not their long-lost loved one, they are a colorful group of people with their own secrets, blah, blah, blah. But I think Bryan Cranston is like the guy he's like some sort of gang boss or something like that, that maybe like this guy, Pete, that he's in, the main character is impersonating, owes money to or something like that. I don't know. But it's gotten really good reviews, 8.3 on IMDb, 94% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Sweet.
Which Rotten Tomatoes, have a love-hate relationship because I think it's owned by Warner Brothers, you know, one of the biggest production companies
Yeah.
in the U.S. So there's got to be a little bias there going on because I used to live and die by Rotten Tomatoes, but now it's kind of you got to assimilate all the, you know, and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, just being able to go and actually cross-check and, you know, see the bigger picture of things, you know,
Yeah.
before you can tell what TV series or political take, you know, views you want to have,
Right,
you know,
right.
so.
So how do you feel about man, people are just jumping from Facebook and all this data stuff that they've been stealing people's data. Well, I don't know about stealing, but man, I don't know what to take of it. That's the thing. People have predicted, oh, this is going to sink Facebook. This is going to sink Facebook and all different stuff. But this is pretty bad. I mean, and now I saw where you could actually download like every bit of information all the data that Facebook has collected on you. Have you seen that?
No.
Yeah, apparently you can do it. People are like freaking out. Like they have like texts and personal messages you send to people. Especially, I think it said with people with Android phones got it worse.
Oh, that's me. I got it the worst.
I had one. I had actually. I got an iPhone now. I've only had this for maybe like 2 years, but before that, I've always had Android phones. So who knows what all they got on me?
So I'm confused. You can download all the information, like
Apparently
the
that's what-
users can, or the
Yeah.
Facebook companies.
No,
Well,
like users, like you can go on there and that's I've saw a few articles. I mean, I haven't tried to do it myself, but apparently that's what people are saying. You could actually go on and download like a zip file of
everything that
everything.
every interaction or
that
whatever.
that Facebook has collected.
Wow.
Yeah, that Facebook keeps. So, and that's like I said, people were saying that there's like private messages on there. So, I don't know.
Well, I wonder what their reasoning is for collecting all that metadata. Like, why is it necessary for the network to work? I mean, they've got to.
Well, I think it's and I think it's a lot of, you're just trying to create technology and programs that can learn. I mean, I don't know if it's bad intentions. I mean, somebody may have obviously could use it with bad intentions, but I think the ultimate goal is to just create technology that can learn from you and figure out what you like stuff. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I'd rather see advertisements for stuff that I potentially may buy than I mean, stuff that I know wouldn't. Why would marketers want to waste their time marketing like a GI Joe to me when they could all try to get some Titans uniforms on my head, like
I don't need a Bing bag.
or whatever the case. I don't know.
It's
I think it's a lot of marketing.
Yeah,
I would
that makes
say.
sense.
But people do use it for people use it for political reasons and a lot of horrible stuff. So I don't know. It's just going to be interesting because you see the younger generation just completely getting away from Facebook. A lot of them don't even have Facebook accounts anymore.
I'd like to see the numbers on that. Where the numbers of users.
Oh, it's dropping.
Really?
Oh yeah, and especially the younger generation. They're using Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat more. And I think that's and it's funny. You'll have like some people, oh, why the younger generation why aren't they getting on Facebook? I want to be able to get on there and like debate and all and talk about politics. It's like, well, that's why. They don't want to get on there and constantly hear this stuff. We want to follow who we want to follow, and I don't know. But
yeah.
I don't know. Facebook it's something.
Facebook Instagram is kind of usually what I post stuff through, and I just send that post through Facebook. But then I do go on and interact and everything like that, because that's just kind of part of the the name of the game. Like I was talking about the algorithms, you kind of have to interact and stuff if you want that Facebook post to be seen or whatever. And I don't know, but Instagram's nice because it's super clean. It's all picture based, so you have to say what you want to say through that picture initially, and then it has to capture the attention of the person to actually want to read if there's a caption involved or something like that. So, and there's more of an artsy aspect, and I feel like Facebook has tried to, because Facebook owns Instagram, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah. And I think they're trying to take cues from that because they're always offering, you know, make your comment color background.
That's right,
and you know, whatever.
All these filters and stuff that
Yeah,
Facebook's
filters.
doing now.
Yeah.
Like the VR, virtual reality stuff. And I haven't messed with that. There's like I don't know if you noticed on the Facebook app, you can like swipe. I think you got to swipe left, and like a whole like camera comes up, and you can actually do like virtual reality filters and stuff. That's a little. I don't want to mess with that on Facebook.
Do you get into any virtual reality stuff? Are you a gamer at all?
No, I haven't done any virtual reality stuff. I play. I've got a PlayStation 4. I finished the new Assassin's Creed about a month or so ago, and play Madden football. I most of the games that I don't really care for like first person shooter games. I don't really like the just, you know, the GoldenEye was a classic, first of all, but Call of Duty, all that stuff. I'm just not into the shoot 'em up games. I like more. If I'm gonna have a first person shooter, I like more of the Tom Clancy, where it's more strategic and not the run and gun. You know, I like to be able to think about it instead of just running and placing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, yeah, I got a PlayStation 4. I mean, I wouldn't classify myself as a huge gamer though.
Yeah. When I was doing all that traveling and stuff, and I ended up buying an Xbox One because PUBG came out. My little brother was playing it, and I'd go over there and played it, and I was like, man, this is pretty dang cool.
Yeah.
So I would go over there just to play it because I had free time or whatever.
Yeah.
And then eventually I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go ahead, and because everybody was playing it, you know.
Yeah.
So I got one and played it for a little bit, and haven't played it in weeks now. But
it's good to have, just kind of when you're, you know, your little, you know, you've played enough music, or you've done some, you know, you're just like, I just want to get something new, just kind of check out and play video games. You know, that's what I kind of do, just get away from it.
It's kind of going full circle on what we've talked about with games and television series and things like that. Like, it's really hard for me to get into series in general because I know the amount of time it's going to take.
Oh yeah.
And you know, if I don't have time to play my guitar, then it's almost like I can't allow myself to sit down and watch TV or play a video game. And that's kind of been the trend the last couple of weeks. It's like I haven't been able to play my guitar, and I don't sit down to do anything that related. I have watched which we were talking about, series Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Yeah,
Jerry Seinfeld
that's
show.
a good one. Yeah,
because that's basically a podcast. You know, they're talking and they're driving around. It's a video podcast, is the way I see it, because I can watch that show and cook or exercise, and I don't actually have to watch it. You know, I can. You know, I like to see the car parts for sure. But they knock that out at the very first minute of the show. After that, I can just listen to it. You know?
Yeah, you're right, and I've watched that show. I've had to watch that show on while I'm just getting ready for work or something, or cooking. You know, like you said. But yeah, I haven't thought about that. It kind of is like a podcast in a way. So I don't know. Maybe that's why I like it.
Yeah.
But as far as the video games, I don't know. I feel like I get more into the games that I have a little bit more of a like a person. Like I'm a big football fan, so I like Madden. And with Assassin's Creed, that goes into a lot of theology and history and stuff, which I'm fascinated by.
And you're a ninja.
Yeah, and I'm a ninja. But no, in fact, they had theologians working on the game, and it's like this whole alternate reality. It's just
their historical context is pretty.
And you get to you go in, you meet Leonardo da Vinci, you meet George Washington in the game. You know, it's just cool. You know, somebody who appreciates history, being able to go through and see all that.
I think VR the last couple of years, because when I was younger, we used to live in an area that at the time it was like the outskirts of D'Iberville. Back then you could have considered it country almost,
right.
You know, and there's just not a lot of other people around. We had two other neighbors, and before I had a car or anything like that, like video games were just like, they were awesome.
Yeah.
They were the shit.
Yeah.
So sit around and play that stuff. And just over the years, video games have pulled me in less and less. And I think VR technology might be the next big step that actually might start pulling me in a little bit more, because I like the idea. It's also the idea of just sitting down stationary, especially if you have a job where you're sitting down for a large portion of the day. The idea of doing more sitting to me is just like totally outside my realm of what I want to do.
Yeah.
But VR, if they can get to where you're like standing and interacting and moving your body around, which I've only looked so much into it, but that seems like it would be really, really cool. And I've been playing, a friend of mine sent me a thing, because Xbox does these monthly free games or whatever, and he said, you need to check out this game, Super Hot. He said it's really cool and it's free for this month, and I played it and it was really cool, and it's designed for VR, but it's actually pretty fun on the consoles itself, and it's just a first person shooter puzzle game, which time only moves when you do.
Nice.
So and it looks like a VR game, like,
So you can go like kind of set things up and then switch on or something.
yeah, like I could start off with a sword in my hand and a dude over here and a dude over here who shoots a shotgun blast. So the shotgun blast happens and I stop, and then I look, and when I look, the bullets come a little bit closer. So, well, this guy, he's right on top of me. He's got a katana. So I turn and I punch him, his weapon flies, I pick up the katana, slice him, and then I throw the katana at that dude, dodge the bullet, step out of the way, and then catch the gun that, flies out of his hand. And the faster you move, it goes into, you can push the stick so that everything's moving in real time, and that makes it really difficult. Or you can go as slow as you want and just be like Neo, and you got to dispatch all the enemies in the level. And it looks like a VR game because everything's white. The enemies are red and the bullets are red, and anything you can pick up, a weapon or an object you can throw, is black. So, and it's the whole storyline is based around like a person being in a VR simulation, and getting like addicted to the fact that they're this badass.
Really?
Yeah.
What's it called?
It's called Super Hot.
Super Hot. I wonder if it's on PS4.
I believe it is. I believe it is. And it's an indie game too. But it's, people rave about it for the VR game because you actually stand up and you use your hands and you look around. And I've read reviewers who say, they get done playing the game and their heart rate is just jacked and they're sweating.
Yeah. Because
it's just, it's a pretty simple game on the surface level, but the mechanics of it are just really fun and you feel like a badass.
Yeah.
So
I want to check that out.
Yeah.
That
So VR
cool.
technology, and augmented reality, those are all going to be big things that the industry, I think, is going to change because consumers are wanting to see more and more of it.
Oh yeah.
And technology is getting there. So
it's scary.
Scary, but cool.
Yeah.
I mean, from an educational perspective, I think it'd be fantastic to have, Google Maps and all that stuff plugged in, all people that want to travel, and just, I think it would be so cool if you could just drop into Rome and walk around, from your living room on a platform that just, you're just walking in place. But if you wanted to, you could literally walk the planet from VR,
What's coming to mind for me is, you could do a lot with you could have like the best minds, the best teachers in the world. You could have them right wherever you want them. They could do some kind of VR where they teach classes, and you could just sit there in your comfort of your own home or wherever. And
I dreamed about that as a kid.
Lecture.
I mean,
if you're no, but no, for real. I mean, it does. That sounds like a excellent thing they could do. I bet you could start lowering tuition with that kind of technology.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about on the last podcast with Jared and Anthony about just technology in society and how it's going to change things. We've got machines that can take your order online, machines that can create your food, deliver it through automated cars. I mean, there's going to be so much that technology is gonna change the face of. And then it begs the question of like, what are people going to do for work and all that and for a living? But I don't know. It's just a lot moving, and I'd love to get down that rabbit hole, but unfortunately, I got to shut it down because I gotta get going here in a second, but it's just the technology where it's going. I mean, it always, you can almost go back and look at the sci-fi movies from that were placed in our timeline now,
Yeah.
you know, back in the 70s, and see what kind of stuff they thought of. Like Blade Runner's a great example. We don't necessarily have flying cars and all the stuff that was supposed to happen in 2019 or whatever the year was, but iPads and things like that, you could see that in like old Star Trek television shows, and now that's the norm.
Or even Twilight Zone. I used to watch Twilight Zone too. And
Yeah.
that, I mean, that they used to have all kinds of, you know, sci-fi stuff, and that was in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just seeing what but I think the cool thing about technology, like I said, it is a tool, but one thing that you know, when markets change and industries change, you know, I just think it's important for people to not be scared of it. You know, I know it could, and people are gonna lose some jobs and stuff, but it's important to the way I describe it is steer into it. You know, when you're driving and you start to slide on some ice or whatever, you know, most people tend to want to turn the steering wheel the opposite way, and then they end up flipping, right? Well, what you're supposed to do is turn into it. So I feel like when it comes to technology, man, it can be scary sometimes, but just turn into it, you know, embrace it, and you know, figure out what kind of barriers you like.
Yep.
So
My barrier is actually becoming the machine. And very
there won't be
real
a barrier.
yeah, no, very real possibility in our lifetime that somebody's is gonna make that leap.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see it, and I could see it not that far off in the future.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep.
Crazy time.
Shea, man, it was great to have you again.
Absolutely.
I think we had a really balanced conversation here.
I think so.
We talked about business, and then we opened up and talked about our more human side, right? You know,
absolutely. Well, and I, you know, like I said, I think that's what we need more these days is, you know, and I'm an elected official, and you know, we just need people to be able to sit down and have honest conversations like this. And this way, you know, I know that I can with you, and so that's why I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, man. We'll do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Cool.
All right, man. All right, folks. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Sweet. Felt like it went good.